Hey V, line them up.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another brand new video. And before I actually get into what the topic of this video is, I need to say a few things. First off, I have attempted to do this video before and failed spectacularly. I misordered what I wanted to talk about, I miscounted, my computer acted up, and then in the end, after I did everything I could to fix things in post and save the whole video, it just got corrupted and deleted itself, which was just epic. So this time around, I have pre-organized what I want to say in my head, who I want to talk about. As you can see, we're on my computer this time around, and we are on the Dokkan Battle Wiki. If you read, basically, if you read the title of this video, then you already know what we're about to get into, so I don't have to waste any time. My top 10 Dokkan Battle units. Before we actually get into it though, a couple of things. One, this is going to be part 1. I am going to drop a part 2 just because I know that I like to talk a lot, and not only do I like to talk a lot, but yeah, there are quite a few units that I want to be talking about. So with that being said, as you can see, it's a little laggy, but that's fine, right? We can work with that. So regardless, this is what we're working with, right? So that's the first thing. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, and I've explained that this is going to be part 1 and everything, I have to set up a few ground rules. First rule: this is only TURs. There are no LRs in this list, nothing like that. Secondly, not only are these only going to be TURs, there are not going to be any support type units. I know that there are some support type units that outshine a lot of Dokkan Fests and whatnot all the time. I get it, right? There are some, support type units that I simp for hard, but this is not that kind of video. I will be doing another video in the near future or whatever, where I do talk about my top 10 support type units in the game. And for that one, I'm going to be a little more free as opposed to just TUR, simply because one of them is an LR and it's the only support type LR in the whole game, so I figured why not, right? But that's for that video. Not only is this only going to be TURs, but it's not going to be support types. These are only going to be the main event type guys, the damage dealers, right? The third and I guess final rule is that I'm not going to really be basing these off of just how much damage they can do. Otherwise, it would be pretty easy to determine who I think the best is before we even get to part 2, where I will do the top 5 or whatever. Just based off of the TUR that does the highest damage in the game, which is low-key probably Beerus, but we're not going to talk about that. So no, this is based off of their offensive capabilities, their defensive capabilities, and what you have to do to the unit or for the unit in order for them to actually be optimal. And if some of these units happen to have support type, passive skills or leaderships or whatever, then that will also be added into their overall score, in my opinion. But this is all going to be subconscious stuff. I'm not going to dive too deep into every little thing about all of the units I talk about, simply because we'd be here for way too long, and this would be like an hour-long video, and I could probably talk about these clowns all day, which I'm not going to do, right? Another thing that I will be judging these units off of is their categories. Most of, if not all of these units, which let's be honest, all of these units do, they have their own little category leaderships, right? Which I guess is the best way to categorize these units, is that these are like main category leaders. That is another thing that subconsciously I will keep in the back of my head when giving these guys the rankings that I've given them. So, for example, if I think a unit, and another unit are similar, right, and are very equal, but for some reason I put one above the other, it's because the one that I put above the other has a better leadership than the other one, right? So for example, there are two units that I have in the bottom 5, so from 10 to 6, that I do believe are pretty equal, but one I put above the other mainly because of the leadership. So keep that in mind that, I do keep all of these things in mind. Their passives, how much damage they do, how defensive are they, their leaderships, all of it, right? Another thing I do keep in mind is if they have to transform or anything like that. So with all of that being said, those are the rules. That's what we're talking about. So we can just get into it. I will start with 3 honorable mentions. These are not the only honorable mentions that I think could have been considered for top 10. Keep in mind, right? There are a couple of other TURs that I do think could have also been considered for top 10. These are just the ones that popped in my head immediately when I thought of like top 10 TURs, and these are probably the ones that deserve to be mentioned the most. So the first honorable mention is this tech transforming Trunks, or as he is called, Resilient Will to Protect the Future Trunks, Teen Future, right? This guy is a Future Saga category leadership, which, I mean, by this point, when this guy came out, Future Saga wasn't really anything too crazy. In fact, when this unit came out, he was probably the craziest unit on this category. But since we've gotten so many TURs and so many LRs, 2 of which came out with the 5th anniversary, LR Rose and LR Vegito Blue, who are like 2 of the best LRs in the game, in my opinion, with all of these units coming out and everything since this guy's release, this guy's category has gotten way crazier, to the point where Future Saga, I mean, you could probably create a pretty good argument for it being one of the best categories in the game, as far as like sagas go, if not the best saga category in the game. And also his sort of subcategory or whatever is super class key +3 HP attack and defense flat 120 stack. This is really good, considering it's not a super type, so it's not like super tech or whatever. It's just super class, which is literally half the game. And it's a flat 120 stack. And we all know that these sort of 120 sub leaders aren't bad. They're pretty solid. So this dude overall, as far as leaderships go, is really good. Plus, he raises attack infinitely before he transforms, and he transforms after 3 turns pass, which is really good. And then once he's Super Saiyan, he raises attack and defense infinitely, which is obviously really good. Plus, you can see his passive here, is, really good. The only thing that keeps him from actually being a top 10 contender is the fact that his final sort of powered up state, which you can trigger from his active skill, even though it's a great active skill animation, probably one of the best in the game, this sucks. This is not that good. he loses all of the defense he's built up, and he can't really make up for the lack of defense with any sort of offense after the fact. So yeah, honorable mention for sure. I still use this dude on a lot of teams, but at the same time, he's not top 10. The next honorable mention is probably a favorite of a lot of people, and it's the pinnacle of Fury, or just Namek Saga Goku, or the sort of flexing Goku, as I like to call him, the swole boy Goku. This guy is Super Saiyans or Planet Namek Saga, HP 130, Ki plus 3, Attack and Defense 170. This dude's categories, Planet Namek Saga now, because of all of the free-to-play EZA units, especially that Prime Battle LR First Form Frieza, who is really good. This dude has gotten quite a few, Planet Namek Saga units that are really good added to his category since his release, which makes that a much better category. Plus, Super Saiyans is one of my favorite categories to run, and is just one of, like the best categories in the game. It's just really solid. Super Saiyans has a lot of good units, including a lot of really OP LRs, including an LR that people think is just the best unit in the game, the brand new STR Super Vegito LR. This dude, gets attack and defense, plus 77%, plus another 15%, which with each attack received up to 59% before he transforms, which, by the way, he also raises it ally attack by 30% for a turn, and then after he transforms, he raises defense infinitely, plus he gets all this, and even this sort of like active skill state or whatever is pretty solid and can save you in a pinch. The reason why he's not top 10 worthy, in my opinion, even though he is pretty solid, is in order to actually transform him, you have to be at HP 70% or less starting from the third turn of the battle. And even though that's not crazy, depending on what kind of team you're running, I know a lot of times when I run a Super Saiyan team, the team never really takes damage, right? And if they do, they can heal it off no problem. So it's rare that, depending on the event you're running, this dude actually transforms. And if this dude doesn't even transform until like halfway through a really long, hard event, he's going to be taking way too much damage. He's not going to have that defense built up enough for this Super Saiyan form to even matter. So for that, I have to just have him as an honorable mention, but it's still a really dope unit, and definitely worth mentioning. And then the final honorable mention that I have before we actually get into the top 10 is this heroic warrior future Gohan. I said before that the physical future Gohan that we had for so long, the Super Saiyan 1, was actually a pretty solid unit, and then we got this guy, and he completely blows that unit out of the water. He greatly raises defense for one turn on super attack, which is obviously good, and then after he transforms, he stacks attack infinitely, while also having, this really good, this really good passive. Plus, not only does he have this pretty solid passive, which is sort of category limited, so that does knock some points off of his score, but also his own categories, Bond of Master and Disciple, is okay, and Hybrid Saiyans, especially now, since we are supposed to be getting a new Super Saiyan 2 Gohan LR to go along with the new Bojack, Hybrid Saiyans is a really solid category, and being one of the 3 best leaderships for that category is nothing to scoff at. The reason why he's definitely not going on top 10 is because defensively, he isn't crazy. He is good defensively just from base defense, but he's not crazy, right? He's still taking damage depending on what event you're running, and the later you get in the event, this dude might get one-shotted, right? Offensively, though, he's pretty good, but another huge thing that makes him not that good is his transformation conditions. Transforms when HP is 58% or more, which is fine, but you have to have a Trunks on the team. And I mean, usually you're only going to run this dude on Future Saga or Hybrid Saiyans, which means you're definitely going to have a Trunks on the team that isn't Kid or GT. However, because of that, it's still, something to keep in mind. So if you are running like a Goku's family team with this dude on it for some reason, he's not going to transform, therefore he's going to be a waste of a character slot. But otherwise, good character and definitely worth mentioning. And with that being said, we can actually get into the top 10. Now, like I said at the beginning, I have done this video before, and when I did this video before, I miscounted, and I had like 12 characters instead of 10. Some of them I don't actually remember who I featured on the top 10, but now that we are, doing it again, my computer is slowing down. So while my computer actually speeds up and, stops dying on me. Okay, here we go. So some of these units might be misplaced from how I had them originally, but, looking at them again and remembering what I said about them in the first place, this is how I truly feel about them. Also, I know we're like halfway through the video by this point, but I gotta say, this is entirely my opinion. Okay, if you guys don't agree, that's perfectly fine. If you don't agree, I would love to know what you think the top 10 is or whatever, and why. And let me know down in the comments or on social media, because I would really love to know your guys' thoughts. But number 10 is transforming Kefla. Now, originally, one of my honorable mentions was going to be Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, Goku, obviously. And the reason why I wouldn't include Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku on the top 10s is because he's only good for his active skill. And I truly do believe that. If you have heard somebody say, oh, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku's a must-have, he's a really good unit, top 10, they're lying, okay? Do not trust them, okay? Because that unit will not do much for you, especially if you are anticipating him carrying a team. Then you will be thoroughly disappointed in how he under-delivers. He is not that good. Who is good, however, is Kefla. Now, Kefla is pretty solid, and I was comparing her to another unit, which I might actually move, and that unit is this Gotenks, who just recently dropped on Global, which, by the way, at the time that I had dropped, or was originally going to do this video, he hadn't dropped on Global yet. But the Gotenks that just recently dropped on Global, when I originally did this video or whatever, I said that they were pretty similar overall as far as like transformations go. Like they both become pretty god tier when they're in their sort of final transformation state. But before that, they're still pretty good, just not game breaking, right? And when I said that, I truly did believe it. And, when I also said that originally, I thought that they were pretty equal. However, one big thing that separates the two, first off, for a majority of events, they're pretty similar as far as passives go, which I can show his passive in his base form. His passive in his base form is actually way worse than hers. However, after transforming, he basically becomes, a god, right? Like, he is pretty good. Now, for long-term events, like, say, the Legendary Goku event or Infinite Dragon Ball history or anything like that, I will admit that she may be better for those sort of long-term events, especially since she raises attack infinitely. Because I think she also does that. Yeah, she raises attack infinitely. You know, all the way, even in her final Super Saiyan 2 state, right? So that already puts her above him in sort of like long term, events because he only stacks for, a set number of turns as opposed to infinitely stacking. However, this dude is way better when it comes to, the more endgame events like Super Battle Road, Extreme Super Battle Road, and Battlefield, right? In those more shorter but like high octave, endgame events, right? The He trumps her by like a lot. And I mean, when it comes down to it, let's be honest. You can beat the Legendary Goku event and most of, if not all of the Infinite Dragon Ball histories with just about any team. It's not that difficult. However, you cannot just beat SBR or Extreme SBR or even Battlefield with any units, right? And for that, I gotta put him above her. I am moving this guy below these two units, uh, just because, yeah, he is pretty similar to Kefla. However, he is better than Kefla for the regards I just said. Plus, Universe 6 is a pretty limited category. Yeah, it has really solid units, especially with her and the Vados that came out with her. But Rapid Growth is a sucky category. And yeah, Special Pose is even worse of a category, but Youth trumps both of these categories, in my personal opinion. So, with that being said, Gotenks is better than Kefla, but they're still both top 10 in my opinion, therefore, putting them both at 10 and 9. Number 8, however, is not this Vegeta, but rather this Goku, rousing Fighting Spirit Super Saiyan 2 Goku Angel. And I'm not gonna lie, in terms of this Goku and this Vegeta, it's exactly what I just said about and um, Kefla and Gotenks. They're pretty similar, right? These guys are pretty similar. They're both really good, really nasty, and not only that, but they do almost the exact same thing word for word per passive. The only thing is that overall, this Vegeta is more defensive, while this Goku is more offensive. Plus, this Vegeta has a guard and has the effective against all types when you give him 6 or more ki, while this Goku only has a chance to dodge with effective against all types. A guard guaranteed is definitely way better for just about any event than a chance to dodge, if you ask me personally. Not only that, I was going to say that they're pretty much equal and tied for 7th place, or 8th place, I meant. Um, Simply because once this guy transforms, if you have him on like a mono, like super tech team, or just a super class team in general that is taking advantage of a super class leader, once he transforms, he becomes extreme type. Once it pops up, yeah, right here, which will obviously make it so he's not taking advantage of that passive anymore. But let's be honest, you're not running him on any like super class team or super tech team or anything like that. That's ridiculous. You're gonna run him on like a Majin Buu saga or one of his own categories. That's what you're doing, right? So with that being said, this dude transforming extreme isn't actually that much of a drawback. Plus, Super Saiyan 3 as a category and Otherworld Warriors as a category are lesser than Super Saiyan 2 and Resurrected Warriors, in my opinion. I mean, Resurrected Warriors includes so many characters, including, Fizz, Piccolo, and uh, Tech transforming Ultimate Gohan, who's, you know, one of the best units in the entire game, low key. While Super Saiyan 3 doesn't really include anybody noteworthy other than him, to be honest. And Otherworld Warriors, with the exception of transforming Golden Frieza, who just came out and is JP only, Otherworld Warriors doesn't really have anybody either. So, with that being said, yeah, this guy's leaderships are definitely way worse than this guy's. Plus, this dude's way more defensive while still being just as offensive as this guy. So, with that being said, the Vegeta is definitely going above the Goku for 7th, and then the Goku for 8th. And another notable unit that is for the Super Saiyan 2 category that you would actually be able to run with this guy is the new Super Saiyan 2 LR Angel Vegeta. And because this dude's just Super Saiyan 2 and not Angel, you would be able to run him with this dude. So yeah, another solid unit for this guy's leadership as opposed to this guy's. But I think he also is on Otherworld Warriors, but he's also on Resurrected Warriors, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, 8, and then 7. And then the last unit we're going to talk about in this video, number 6. I debated hardcore about who I wanted the top 5 to be and who I was going to include in the top 5. And I came to the final decision of who I was going to put in top 5. Therefore, having this dude, who I still think is a really solid unit and I still really like, in number 6. A big part of it is simply because his passive is pretty good and he does hit some high numbers, and the fact that he raises defense infinitely before you transform him, and then, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he gives himself a lot of defensive, plus, reduces damage received by 50% when HP is 49% or less. Typically, you're not really going to have, defense at 49% or less, depending on what team you're running, but still, damage reduction is really good. Not only that, but you can transform this dude literally from the very first turn. Can be activated upon entering attacking turn. So literally, once you start up the battle, you can transform this dude anytime you want via active skill, which is really dope. It's a solid active skill. Another thing that sort of puts him at a disadvantage, in my opinion, which gets him at number 6 instead of top 5, are these categories. These categories aren't bad, and in fact, they're probably like the best leader for these categories, considering it's a flat 150. However, Resurrected Warriors and Otherworld Warriors, all of the negatives and positives for these categories I just said with the last 2 units. But other than that, this dude's really good. You've seen his passives. He can transform whenever. And he also is a unit for a category that is kind of struggling and, some would argue needs more units, and that's representatives of Universe 7. But with that being said, we're going to cap it there for this part. This one's going to be a little bit longer anyways, so I don't really want it to be, like an hour, because I already know this is going to be like close to half an hour. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like if you liked the video, and please subscribe and share it around, right? So we can, sort of, I don't know, inform more people or just get more people, talking about what their top 10s are. And like I said earlier, if you disagree, or if you have your own opinions as to who top 10 are, or at least just 10 through 6, please let me know in the comments and on social media. I would love to hear your guys' opinions. And yeah,